Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Scott. This is CineRam. The channel is CineRam. And this is my series, Biggest Movie Summer Ever, in which I'm spotlighting a few summer movie seasons from years past to determine which one is the biggest. Biggest being sort of a amorphous term. Top grossing or big, most culturally influential, something like that. Because I was looking forward to this year, this summer and all the big stuff that's coming out. And we've had some big stuff come out already, and we've had one high-profile disappointment so far. That's Solo. Solo is not making the money of a typical Star Wars franchise film. Too bad, because it's a lot of fun, actually. Over the past couple weeks, I saw Ocean's 8, which was pretty good. But not something that I would say, yeah, you absolutely have to see it. On one hand, I have to say that Sandra Bullock seems a little miscast. She's a big star, and plays the part well, but it's just weird seeing her as someone who is so ultra-confident and smooth, whereas, most of the time she's just like somewhat slightly frazzled and out of sorts, and that's part of what makes her charming. In this one, she's just kind of evil. I mean, she's no worse than any of the other guys from any other Ocean's movies, but it's just a little odd seeing her play this kind of character. But I liked it. Overall, I thought it was a good time. But again, not something that I would say, yeah, go out of your way to see it. Yesterday, I went to see Incredibles, and the new Incredibles movie, and that was also lots of fun. In the past, I've talked about my inability to love any particular new movie as much as some of the movies I've seen in the past. This may be something that grows on me more. I liked it, yes, it was good, but I wasn't like, oh my goodness, it's so awesome, I love it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's good. It's a good movie. Which is kind of disappointing, given that it's Incredibles 2. Anyway, it wasn't like I was saying, oh my god, this is going to be the best movie ever, but still, it was something that I was just like, yay, finally, more Incredibles, that's great. It's fun to catch up with those characters again. That's what's been going on with me the last week. Let's get into 1989, which is what I want to talk about for this video. The top grossing movie of the summer worldwide was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. No surprise there, Indiana Jones, very, very popular character, and it was not as dark, it was a little bit more upbeat and fun versus Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom got very dark at times. The one movie that had, I think, a much bigger cultural impact was a movie that came in right behind it, and that, of course, was Batman. I was a little surprised to learn that Batman did not outgross Indiana Jones, but then again, maybe Indiana Jones has more international appeal, or at least it did have at the time. Batman was sort of an unknown. They weren't sure whether or not it was going to be the huge hit that they were hoping for, because A, Michael Keaton, and B, 60s TV series, all cheesy and stuff like that, and this was sort of a different kind of dark, sort of weird vibe to a superhero movie. And there hadn't been any really big superhero movies since the first couple Superman movies in the late 70s, early 80s. But they marketed the hell out of it. They put Batman logos on every single product under the sun, and everybody was just like, Jack Nicholson is the Joker? Oh my god, gotta see that. There was the Prince songs, and there was the Danny Elfman soundtrack that also was very, very popular. The themes in that movie became very popular. Overall, it was just a big deal. It was a big, big, big deal. Aside from that, the third highest grossing movie worldwide from that summer was Dead Poets Society, oddly enough. Dead Poets Society is the definition of counter-programming. Quiet drama set at a prep school in the 1950s. Robin Williams toning his shtick down, way down. He does a little bit of riffing, a couple of impressions, but for the most part, he pretty much plays the character straight. He's an English professor named Mr. Keating, and he's teaching the main characters, some of the kids who are the main characters at the school, poetry, learning to write and appreciate poetry and sort of the passion that goes with it. Ethan Hawke is one of the main characters, so is Robert Sean Leonard, who was on the TV show House, of course, but I know him from Dead Poets Society. A few other people, Josh Charles, if you know Josh Charles, he was in it too. A couple other people, but who didn't really go on to be famous or anything like that. It's similar to School Ties. I think School Ties is actually a better film overall, but Dead Poets Society is just like, gets you right here, gets you right in the heart. It really does. What else did we have that summer? A few big franchise movies, one of which was a big hit, Lethal Weapon 2, one of which was a hit but not kind of disappointing in relation to the first one, and that was Ghostbusters 2. And then there was one which was a flat-out disaster, and that was Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Unlike the previous two Star Trek movies, it was not directed by Leonard Nimoy, it was directed by William Shatner. I can just sort of picture William Shatner going, look, you want me in the next Star Trek movie? I want to direct this time, you know? I want to actually direct this movie. And so they let him direct, and it didn't turn out very well. It was about an alien, I think it was a Vulcan, actually, who was searching for God. He needed a starship to meet God somewhere in the universe. Didn't go over too well. You know, it was not well-liked movie. Not a well-liked movie amongst the Star Trek films. Too bad. I'd been actually a Star Trek fan for a long time, and of course I'd been a Ghostbusters fan when that movie came out, but those actually were two movies that I decided not to see in the theater. Smart. I was getting smart about my movie choices. I was still not really going to see that many movies on my own, a little bit here and there. But I think this was the year I turned 16, so I was driving around a little bit. And you know, I went to see a few movies on my own without anyone accompanying me. Yeah, I avoided those two. I also avoided Lethal Weapon 2, but only because I hadn't seen the first one and I just wasn't like into Lethal Weapon. But I caught up with both of them on video, and then the ones that came after that I saw in the theater. My favorite is 3. But I might be biased because that was the first one I saw in the theater. I don't know. But I did like the villain a lot in that one. So yeah, that was 1989. I'd say probably the most significant film to come out that summer was Batman. You know, it had its hits, it had its disappointments, but Batman really kind of took off and, you know, got everyone's attention. And the marketing, especially, the marketing was something that really made an impact. And I saw that later with films like Jurassic Park and with Independence Day. They just, like, got some sort of image. In the case of Jurassic Park, it was the logo with the T-Rex. With Independence Day, it wasn't even an image for the movie, it was just the title, which they shortened to ID4, which doesn't make a lot of sense. The movie's just called Independence Day, not Independence Day 4. But they called it ID4, they put it up everywhere on posters and billboards and ads everywhere, and that made an impression too, along with just the image of the gigantic spaceships hanging over cities. We'll get into 96 a little bit later on, what do you say? We'll talk about that later. Looking back at these 3 summers, trying to figure out, again, I'm just sort of looking, what's the biggest movie summer ever? And still, I'm not sure anything compares to 1977 with Star Wars, which had a megaton bomb impact on, you know, the nation and the world. But 1977 aside, I'd probably want to go with 87 as opposed to 84 with Ghostbusters and Gremlins and the breakdancing movies, or 89 with Batman. And that's just because the number of franchises that sort of launched at that point. You had not only Lethal Weapon, Predator, and RoboCop starting out that summer, but you also had the first Timothy Dalton James Bond movie and Dirty Dancing, which kind of became its own franchise because it got sequels and it got the Broadway musical and you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say of these 3 movies so far, 87 has been the biggest one. The biggest as far as the impact that it's had. What else did I do this last week? I caught up with a movie that I hadn't seen in a really long time. In fact, the last time I saw the movie in its entirety from beginning to end was when I showed it to my dad, which was quite a number of years ago, over 10 years ago, probably, I want to say maybe 13, 14 years ago. Goodfellas has been, for quite some time now, my favorite movie of all time. And I think about it often, but I don't rewatch it all that much. You know, I don't want it to get old. I don't want to get tired and bored with it. So I rewatched it a couple days ago. and I noticed some new things about it. I noticed there's a little trick where they narration, the voiceover narration, anticipates dialogue that comes immediately after. When they're talking about using onions in the sauce and the tomato sauce, you have the narration saying that, and then one character says, "Don't put too many onions in the sauce." And I realized, hey, Forrest Gump did that, except it did it later, and it did like 4 times throughout the course of the movie. I also noticed that I think most of the music that you hear in the movie, most of the songs, were songs that I hadn't heard before, with the exception of 2. I'd heard The Nightingale, but it wasn't the original recording. It was Aaron Neville's cover of it for Rain Man. And I'd heard Beyond the Sea, but that was because it was in the opening credits to Wall Street, the Oliver Stone film Wall Street from about 3 years earlier. All the other songs I hadn't heard before, including the piano riff that turns into a guitar riff, the instrumental end of Layla. Layla was a song that I hadn't heard before, and so when I heard that piece of music that starts out dun 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 dun. That's from Layla. That's the end. After the proper part of the song is over with, there you have this instrumental. And because they use that in the trailer and all by itself in the film, I thought it was like an original piece of music composed for the film, but I was wrong. There's no original score in Goodfellas. It's all songs taken that had been previously recorded. And then I heard Layla, but I heard the slowed down sort of acoustic version of it when Eric Clapton did a concert for MTV. And it wasn't until I'd finally heard the recorded song of Layla after that, and it transitioned into the instrumental at the end, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't this from Goodfellas? No, it's not from Goodfellas. It was just used in Goodfellas, like all the other songs in that film. Terrific movie, really enjoyed it, always really enjoyed it. Always, there are moments, there are cuts, there are shots, there are bits of dialogue that's just simply a pleasure to watch and listen to, as opposed to just the overall experience being great. Just so much of it just gives me pleasure just to look at and listen to. And that's why it's my favorite movie of all time. And I sat down, I decided to watch a movie in my collection that I hadn't seen in a while, whereas mostly I'm watching new things, new episodes of TV shows I haven't seen before, films that I haven't seen. But I'm like, nope, I'm going to watch Goodfellas tonight. Before Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom comes out, I'm going to rewatch Jurassic World, which I didn't even see all the way through the first time. I went to the bathroom and missed some scenes. Nothing significant. It wasn't something that I was just like super pumped about, but I'd like to like refamiliarize myself with the characters before the new one comes out, because I am excited for this one, because you've got a T-Rex and a lion standing on facing cliffs roaring at each other. That's pretty epic, even for a Jurassic Park movie. Plus, Jeff Goldblum is back, and I love him. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. The next year that I focus on for my series will be 1993. Yes, which just happens to be when the first Jurassic Park movie came out. Funny that. And then I'll do a little recap of the years in between 89 and 93, so we'll get caught up, and then I will see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry this is a day late. Had to dash this off quick because I've been partying too much. Spending too many nights out with my buddies playing cards and drinking and womanizing and stealing cars and selling cigarettes out of the back of trucks and other shenanigans like that. Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon. Bye-bye.